Hello everybody, my name is Corey Hickman. I'm with Keller Williams Advisors. I'm the real estate concierge. Today I kind of wanted to go over with you, if you're a first-time home buyer, what's the checklist, what does the process look like, what's the start, where's the finish line, and for those of you that are just kind of like, hey, I want to buy a house, what do I do, where do I go? Lots of questions I'm sure that you have. I'm going to try to answer them today. So let's start at the very beginning. Your very first step is going to be to talk to someone like me, a real estate agent. You'll want to probably interview a couple of them, a couple of real estate agents, figure out who fits, who do you like more, who's going to give you a good deal when it comes down to helping you find a house, helping you find what you need, what you want, really put things into perspective. What does the process look like? And that's what I do. I sit down with my clients and I go through just about everything. We either sit down and I pay for a meal, or we sit down here at the office and we go over just about everything, from basically everything we're going to talk about today. And then I go over the contracts, I go over the forms, the documents that are involved. I go over what a buyer-broker agreement is, what the consumer guide to agency is. And I go over pretty much all of it, and I explain to them in 45 minutes to an hour time of what everything is. Your second step, you're going to talk to a lender. A lender, I have a lot of recommendations when it comes to lenders. There's a couple of them that I use, and they're great people. What you're going to do is you're going to sit down with them, and they're going to go over financials, they're going to go over debt to income ratio, credit score, what you're pre-approved for, and just about everything when it comes down to the financials of the transaction. Once you get your pre-approval back from the lender and given to me, that's when we start the next process that's called the house hunting phase, where we actually go out and we look for houses. We go through them, we do showings, we do tours, we do pretty much everything when it comes down to like, okay, you come to me and you say, hey, I want a 3-bed, 2-bath. And then I go over and I say, okay, let's go click on the computer, and we go find some 3-bed, 2-baths, somewhere in your price range. We go through those houses, and as we tour them, you figure out, is this something you want? What's ingress, egress look like? What's, where's the kid's bedroom going to be? Where's my office going to be? Where are we going to put the TV? Things like that. And when you walk through a house, you'll kind of get the feeling of if you should put an offer in or not. What that feeling is, it's kind of like a warm and fuzzy feeling. You'll be like, hey, I really like this house. I can see myself living here. You'll say, you'll know as soon as you open the door. You'll start walking through, and you'll look at your spouse and be like, yeah, this is it. And that's the warm and fuzzy feeling, and that's when we know when to put in an offer. Now, what brings us to the next piece is the offer stage. What's in the offer? What am I to expect? What that is me as your buyer's agent, as we sit down and I type it up, what's the purchase price? How much are we going to offer the seller? How much are we going to put in closing costs? Or do we want them to pay any kind of closing costs and seller credits? How long is our inspection period? What kind of timeline do we have on financing statements, financial contingencies? Are they going to pay my commission? Is the seller going to pay my commission? Usually what I do is I'll say in the very first offer, I'll ask, yes, I would like the seller to pay the buyer broker commission. They can counter, they can reject, they can accept. So they have those 3 choices. And if that comes down, that's part of the consult of, hey, if the seller doesn't pay me this commission, that's going to come back on the buyer. And that's part of the buyer broker agreement. More on that in another video. And that's kind of all of the offer stage. The inspection stage, in an inspection, this is your most critical period to figure out, what is this house? Does it have issues? If it does have issues, what kind of issues? Does it have mold? Does it have a a huge hole in the roof. What's the substance of this house? And this is where you hire an inspector to go through it thoroughly and then give you a report back saying, hey, these are the issues that I found. A lot of inspectors, what they'll do is they'll basically ding just about everything that they see, quote unquote, that's wrong. If the inspector I like to use, he's color coded on his reports. Red is extremely wrong, mold, or the things that are the most of utmost importance, things that are actually seriously wrong with the house. Yellow is things that are cautionary, things that you should be cautious. It's not a huge pressing issue, but it's something that needs to be fixed. And then like gray color is this is just an aesthetic thing, a hole in the door, and it should be fixed, but it's something you can live with. So that's more or less the inspection phase. Always hire a good inspector, by the way. This is your most critical time. Usually I'll put in 7 to 9 days of inspection, and if something does pop out at you on that report that's like, oh, I'm really not interested in this house, I really don't want it anymore, that's your time to get out of that contract. Appraisal. Next thing that's going to happen is an appraiser is going to come in, and the appraiser is going to go through the house and they're going to put a number on it. They're going to do their own comps work, and they're going to tell you if this house is actually worth what you're offering on it. Some appraisers, depending your loan type, will go through and they might even act as an inspector, where if you have things like peeling paint and you're getting an FHA loan, they might not allow that, so they need to say, hey, this needs to be fixed before the appraiser can finish his work and you can move on. So those are some things that you need to be watching out for when it comes down to things like inspection. Something your real estate agent should also give you a heads up on. Closing. After appraisal and everyone's work is done, finance, the lenders approve the loan, the inspection has gone through, the appraisal's gone through, and everyone's stamped and ready to go. Then we schedule a closing, and then we all go take a final walkthrough through the house and be like, okay, is this, this is it, basically. And then we go to the closing table, and at the closing table, the notary is there, or the closing attorney is there, and they, stamp documents away. You start signing a whole bunch of documents. Now we're moving into more of an electronic age, so you might be just clicking your signature now, but you'll be signing a whole bunch of paperwork, and seller signs some things and saying, hey, we're done. They'll do the transfer of utilities, transfer of ownership, and you get the keys, and it's a really happy time. Closing is, it's a huge celebration. That's when, that me as a real estate agent, that's when I get paid. That's when the lender is finished with his or her work, and it's a huge celebration. Some common tradition is that real estate agents will provide a gift to their client. That is kind of a common thing. That's something that especially I love to do as an agent, is that I will tailor a gift towards my buyer. So my first buyer, he didn't have a deadbolt on the door, so I got him a deadbolt. It was an electronic lock. My second buyer, there was a lack of security around the house, and I got him a security camera. So that's just kind of some examples of what I like to do, especially for my clients. This was a very down and dirty, sort of really quick explanation. Of course, there's a lot that I did miss that I didn't necessarily go over, but when you're ready to buy a house and you want to sit down and learn more, come talk to me. I'm Corey Hickman. I'm with Keller Williams Advisors. I'm the real estate concierge. My number is 513-462-6803. Hope to see you guys soon, and talk later.